Hi guys, today we're going to make some DIY edible Christmas gifts. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you who wrote to me when I asked what kind of videos you wanted to see for the holidays. And I'm very glad that some of you wanted to see some more Christmas gift ideas, because I really enjoy making these types of recipes and sharing these types of ideas. I have done a few videos in the past with the Christmas gift ideas that you can make at home and that are edible, so I'll link those down below. But today I have 3 new recipes for you guys. The first one is a chili crisp oil. The second one is a gluten-free and vegan, of course, Biscotti recipe with stem ginger and almond. And the final recipe is a tea blend, which is a sort of spiced winter apple tea. So as you can tell, there's a bit of a varying degree of difficulty to this. And I thought we'd start with the most time-consuming and finish with the least time-consuming. So we're going to start with the chili crisp oil. And I actually thought before I made this myself at home that it would be pretty hard to make, but it's actually mainly fun. But you do need a thermometer, a food safe or kitchen thermometer. It will be your best friend so that you can keep track of the oil temperatures. You could say that this recipe comes together in 4 steps, and in each step we're going to add depth and complexity to the flavor. And the first thing we're going to do is to deep fry some shallots and some garlic, and this will of course add to the crisp texture of the oil. To make about 1.5 cups of chili crisp, I use 5 small shallots and 5 large garlic cloves. And you'll want to slice both really finely as you can. I use a knife, but you could also use a mandolin. To do this slicing finely, you could of course use a mandolin, but I wanted to show that you can definitely do this just using a knife as well. If I was to use a mandolin, I wouldn't cut the shallots in half. I would keep them whole, and then it's easier to use the mandolin without being terrified of slicing your fingers. Anyways, you want to slice them as fine as possible. And now that that's done, we're going to heat up the oil. We're going to heat it up to about 160 degrees first. And I'm using rapeseed oil, which has a high smoke point. I think the smoke point of this is about 220 degrees Celsius. And I'm using this because it's local to us here in Sweden, and especially in the area that we are living in. But other oils that have a high smoke point would be things like avocado oil or peanut oil. You just want an oil that's neutral in flavor and has a high smoke point. And the quantity I'm going to use now is about 1 cup, or I say about 1 cup, I mean 1 cup. And at this point, it's also good to keep some things handy. So I've got a jug here and a sieve so that we can transfer the bits we're deep frying into the sieve and have the oil come in here, and then we can just pour the oil back in the pot easily without burning ourselves. And I've also got a tray here with some paper so that we can pop the things we've deep fried on here and that they can just dry and crisp up on the side as we move on with the other steps. Start warming your oil over medium heat and keep a good eye on the thermometer, because you don't want to go much over or under the 160 degrees Celsius when you're deep frying the shallots. You will most likely need to turn the heat up a little bit when you have put the shallots into the oil, as they are cool and they will bring the oil temperature down. But as soon as they start turning golden, like you can see here, take it off the heat and pour the oil through the sieve and shake the deep fried shallots onto the paper and spread them out so that they can dry nicely. Next, we'll pour the oil back into the pot, and this time we'll bring it up to 150 degrees Celsius, ready to deep fry our thinly sliced garlic. Garlic burns much easier, so the lower temperature is great for it, and you'll notice that they fry much quicker. So as soon as they start turning golden, take them out and they will crisp up further on the paper. So the most crucial part is done now. You have really small margins when you take the shallots and the garlic out of the pan. As you could see, just as they're getting golden in the pan, you want to take them off and pour the oil off them because they keep browning and crisping up even after you take it off the heat. So you have to be a little bit quick, but now that that's done, we are going to pour the oil back into the pot. And we're going to bring this up to about 110, between 110 and 120 degrees Celsius. And then we're going to keep it there because we're going to infuse the oil now. And this is when we can have a lot of fun and add a lot of depth and flavor. And you can play around with things here, but I'm going to add some fresh ingredients like orange, spring onion, ginger, but also some dried spices, dried whole spices like Szechuan pepper and cinnamon and star anise. So we're going to bring it up and then just prep all the ingredients and pop them in there and infuse the oil for about 30 minutes. I like using a vegetable peeler to get about 2 to 3 large strips of orange zest off the fruit. When it comes to the ginger, there's not much prep to do. You'll want a 2-inch long piece that you just cut in half. The last fresh ingredient I'm using are some spring onions, and I simply cut the white part off from the green part and will use the white part only. The dry ingredients will add so much aroma to this, and I'm going in with 1 cinnamon stick, 3 whole star anise, as well as 1 bay leaf. And finally, I'm also adding 1 whole tablespoon of Szechuan peppercorn. And I almost forgot that I actually add 1 more fresh ingredient, which is 3 whole peeled garlic cloves. Alright, so now you just want to make sure that this stays between 110 and 120 degrees Celsius. You don't want to be deep frying these bits in here, you just want them to infuse the oil. So I usually precariously place my thermometer sitting in the oil so that I can just check it easily. And maybe you'll have to change the settings on the stove once in a while just to keep it in that range. And another thing you want to make sure is that nothing in there burns. So the fresh bits like the spring onion and the orange zest can burn easily, more easily than the dried spices, if you will. And if you find that they are burning, you just take them out and keep infusing the bits that are looking good in there. This is just going to stay like this now for 30 minutes. And in the meantime, we can actually finally prepare the chili part of this chili crisp oil. So you need a biggish bowl, and we're gonna pop some chili flakes in here. I've got some regular chili flakes, if you will, and some Korean chili flakes called gochugaru. Using both of these makes for a medium heat. The gochugaru is a little bit less hot than the chili flakes I'm using. So using 50-50 brings it to a medium heat, but of course you could play around with this to suit your taste if you like it less spicy or more spicy. The quantity I'm using for my 1 cup of oil is 1/4 cup of each of the chili flakes. So I simply pop that in the bowl along with 1 tablespoon of this mushroom stock powder. I buy this at my local Asian grocery store and it adds lots of umami here, but if you don't have any, you can simply leave it out. Then finally, I just go in with 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 tablespoon of salt and mix it all up. So my oil has been infusing for about 30 to 40 minutes now. You can leave it up to an hour if you have the time and patience. Now we're going to bring this up to 150 degrees Celsius before we pour the bits off and then pour the oil over our chili flakes where they're gonna just sizzle up and infuse further. Okay, so now that the chili and the oil has become good friends in here and it's a little less hot, the oil, we can add in some extras for more crunch, for more flavor, and you can get as creative as you want here, but I'm going to show you what I think is sort of the basics that you can add and what I like. First of all, I add 1 tablespoon of Japanese soy sauce. Then I go in with 2 tablespoons of toasted sesame oil. For even more crunch, I add in 1/4 cup's worth of chopped, roasted and salted peanuts, as well as 2 tablespoons of toasted sesame seeds. Then finally, I crush in the deep fried garlic slices. and add in all of the deep fried shallots. Then I just mix it all up, and that's the chili crisp done. This type of chili crisp really has become a favorite of many around the world this past year or so, since it's been shared a lot on social media, and I'm sure in certain cultures it's a favorite of years and years, maybe whole lives. And I always think it's nice to make a homemade version of something you know a loved one or a friend likes, and gift it to them. And that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to pop them in this little wick jars. I think these are really nice for gifts. You can get them in lots of different sizes, but also this is a great opportunity to do some recycling. Maybe you have some jars already sitting in your cupboard. These are some jars that we've had for years now, and you can use them. Also old jam jars, or an old chili crisp jar that you have on hand will work perfectly, of course. It's really nice to tie a little ribbon or something, but let's just get these into the jars and see how it looks. Doesn't that just look so cute? Of course, you can also put the chili oil, chili crisp in a bigger jar and give a bigger gift. And you can also double the recipe, triple the recipe, quadruple the recipe, so that you make a bigger batch to keep some for yourself, give to many friends or family members. You know, you can definitely scale up or down as you wish. Now, before we move on to making our biscotti, I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video and tell you a little bit about them. Squarespace is an all-in-one website builder with lots of great tools to create a beautiful and well-functioning website without any prior knowledge of coding or website building. Their Fluid Engine design system offers great customizable templates that will suit your style and brand. For example, they offer great blogging tools which allow you to share your stories, photos, and videos, as well as schedule your posts as you wish. You can also use Squarespace to set up your own online store, whether you sell physical, digital, or service products. I use Squarespace for my online photography portfolio and really enjoy how easy and intuitive it is to use the drag and drop technology to bring my creative ideas to life. So if you're thinking about creating a website for your project, check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your site, go to squarespace.com/goodeatings for 10% off your first website or domain. So let's move on to making the biscotti now, and I'm making a gluten-free version, and of course it's vegan as well. I haven't had biscotti in a long time. It's not that easy to find in the shops here in Sweden in that combination, gluten-free and vegan, and since making these it's definitely become a new favorite. I'll be making this all winter long. It's got really nice flavors from ginger, orange, and cinnamon. And I'm also using coconut sugar, which gives it quite a caramelly sort of base note, and it makes a perfect gift for someone who has a sweet tooth, which is most people in my surroundings. And it's also a really nice treat to make when you have guests over during the holiday season. So it's a good gift idea, but also a nice treat to make for friends and family who are visiting and coming over for a fika. And the first thing we need to do is to create some flax eggs. As this is a vegan recipe, it will be egg-free, but we still need a good binder. So I'm going to combine some flax seeds with some soy milk in this case, and it will gel together as it sits to the side while we prep the other ingredients. To create the flax egg mixture, I simply combine 2 tablespoons of milled flaxseed with half a cup of unsweetened soy milk. Then I simply set that aside as I continue with the recipe, and the next step is to melt 50 grams worth of vegan butter. I do this over a low heat, and I turn the heat off when it's almost melted and just let it sit to the side while I continue with the other ingredients. So I've left the last of the butter melting on the residual heat back there, and I've also turned on the oven to preheat at 175 degrees Celsius. Don't know why that's hard to say. And now I'm going to combine all the dry ingredients. So I need another bowl, a bigger one this time. There's a few things going in, and this is where all the yummy stuff starts. Then we'll add some extra flavorings at the end as well. First up, I've got a 1.5 cups worth of a gluten-free all-purpose flour mixture. I'm also adding in 1 cup of almond meal and 3/4 cups worth of coconut sugar. For a raising agent, I've got 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and then to spice things up, I'm adding in 1 teaspoon of ground ginger as well as 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. To bring all the flavors out, I'm also adding in 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then I'm just mixing it all up to combine. Now to bring some more fun textures and flavors, I'm chopping up 3/4 cups worth of almonds pretty roughly. These will add a nice crunch to the finished biscuit and look really nice when you cut them. Then to add even more warming ginger spices, I am adding 5 balls of stem ginger, but first I chop them up finely. As promised, I'm also adding in some orange, and I'm just using the zest of 1 large orange, which brings a really nice fragrance to the finished biscuit. As you know, I'm partial to my microplane for zesting citrus, but you could also use a box grater. Finally, I add in the almonds and the stem ginger as well and just mix it through to disperse them. Then it's time to combine the wet ingredients with the dry, so I start by whisking in the melted butter to my flax egg mixture. Then I simply pour the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients and I work it through. The one beauty in working with gluten-free flours is that you can't overwork the dough, so just take your time and make sure that all the flours are combined with the wet ingredients and that all your chunks are well dispersed in the mixture. Now that the dough is well mixed and combined and it's sticking together, it is quite a sticky dough, just to let you know. It's time to divide it in 2 and to roll it into 2 logs and place them here on my tray that I've prepared with a baking paper. So I'm just going to eyeball half and half and then go from there. You'll want your log to be roughly 25 centimeters in length and 4 or 5 centimeters in width as you press it out onto the baking sheet. Take care to press it together nicely as you roll it, but be careful to not roll it too much as it can be a little bit brittle. Use your hands and fingers to create this kind of dome shape that biscotti are known for. Before baking them for 30 to 35 minutes in the preheated oven, they are ready when you can sort of prod them and they stay firm against your touch. And before I move on to the next step, I let them rest for 20 minutes to cool down a little. So now these guys have cooled down a little bit and they've also stiffened up a little bit, which is why we let them rest so that they are more stable when we cut them. And now when we're cutting them, I highly recommend using a serrated knife. This will just help not break it up too much and it will get you through that harder outer surface. And I'm going to transfer them onto a board as well because I find it easier to cut than on this tray that has edges. So let's transfer them and cut them. I cut each log into 1 centimeter thick biscottis and I use this back and forth motion very gently as I cut them, and I hold the sides together so that they don't fall apart. At this point the cookies are very brittle as they are not fully baked or dried out, but don't let this put you off, it's not hard, just make sure that you hold them together. This batch makes about 36 cookies, and once you've cut them, just place them cut side down back on the baking sheet and pop them back in the oven. At this point, you adjust the oven to 150 degrees with fan assist, and you bake them for 30 to 35 minutes or until they are dried out and firm to the touch. Once they're back out of the oven, just place them on a rack and let them cool down completely. They will firm up a little bit in this process as well, and they should have a nice crisp texture when you break them apart. I like to gift these in a nice tin. I've reused this chai tea tin, which has a lovely red color for Christmas, but just use what you have on hand. Okay, so now let's move on to my third and final idea for today. It's definitely the simplest one. I'm going to show you how to make a tea blend that's perfect for this time of year. It's really fun to come up with your own blends though, so feel free to be creative. Or you could use my idea, which is a winter spice apple tea. It's definitely inspired by chai tea, but has some twists and turns, you could say. And I'm also including some dried apple, which gives it a little bit of sweetness, also a little bit of tartness. But yeah, this is super simple, so let's get started. I've got some English breakfast tea to have as a base, but actually Darjeeling tea or an Assam loose leaf tea would work really well here as well. To make a good gift-sized jar of tea, start by adding 1 cup of your black tea leaves to a bowl. Then chop up half a cup's worth of dried apple slices into small pieces and add them to the bowl as well. For the dried spices, I start by crushing up 4 cinnamon sticks with a pestle and mortar. You don't want to crush it into a powder, but into small pieces that will fit in a tea strainer. I'm also popping 4 teaspoons of pink peppercorn into my pestle and mortar, along with 3 teaspoons of fennel seeds and 3 teaspoons of whole cloves. And then I simply bash them up a bit with my pestle and mortar. You don't want, again, to make it into a powder and actually not into fine pieces either. You just want to release the aromas before adding them to the tea and the apples. Mix it up really well, and then it's ready to go into a jar and be gifted to a friend or a family member who loves tea as much as I do. It can always be nice to include a little note on how to brew the tea. And for most black teas, you brew them at 100 degrees Celsius for about 3 to 5 minutes. Love all those spices that are in there, and that apple that just comes through ever so slightly. And I am partial to a milky tea, and this tea works perfectly with a splash of oat milk, which has a little bit of sweetness as well. I really hope one of these ideas suits you and whoever you are gifting Christmas or holiday gifts this year. I have had a blast cooking these up for you, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. Thank you all very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one for more Christmas cheer, where I take up more of the requests or wishes that you had replying to me. So yeah, take care everyone. I look forward to seeing you.